Aloha. Thank you for joining me today to talk a little bit about 5G and Hawaii. Let's start with the basics. What is 5G? It's a little bit more complicated than you might think. 5G refers to fifth generation wireless technology, and it's not to be confused with what might be showing up on your cell phone or your cable box or maybe even your computer when one of those devices is searching for Wi-Fi connections. You might see 5G pop up there, but that refers to something different. That refers to 5 gigahertz. Wi-Fi used to transmit at 2.4 gigahertz, and then recently they've started also transmitting at 5 gigahertz, and so sometimes 5G will show up on your phone, cable box, or computer. But again, that stands for 5 gigahertz, which is different than what we're talking about today. We're talking about fifth generation wireless technology. So when cell phones first came out, they operated on 1G, or the first generation of cell phone infrastructure, which means you could make phone calls on your phone. And then 2G came along, the second generation. And then I think they introduced unlimited plans, things like that. When 3G came along, the third generation, things really ramped up. And then you could check email and text messaging, all of that happened. And then with 4G, which is what most of us have right now, 4G LTE, you were able to watch videos and entire movies on your cell phone. So every time there's a new generation, there's an increase in functionality of your phone. But it's important to understand that what we have now, 5G, we're told, is about faster downloads, but it's really not. 5G is categorically different than anything that has ever existed in the history of the planet. 5G should be called AI IoT, which stands for Artificial Intelligence and the Internet of Things, because 5G is meant to usher in robotics and driverless cars, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, and the Internet of Everything. That's really what 5G is all about. It's not about faster downloads. It's important to understand that 5G infrastructure adds onto and does not replace 4G. That means that all of the cell towers and antennas that we currently have are going to stay, and more will be added on to them. And we're talking about many more, because 5G operates in millimeter wave frequencies. So that's a part of the electromagnetic spectrum that has never before been used for telecommunications in a household or consumer kind of way. Millimeter wave frequencies have in the past only been used by the military for directed energy weapons. But now millimeter waves are assigned to 5G. And because millimeter waves are very fragile, they're not as resilient as other microwaves that are currently in use. They get easily distorted, and they don't easily penetrate through walls and buildings, and they tend to get absorbed by moisture. So if there are trees with leaves on them, for example, that can easily block the signal of the millimeter waves. And for that reason, the antennas have to be placed very, very close together. And in residential areas, that means these 5G small cell antennas installed every 2 to 10 homes. They can also be installed as close as 15 feet to your home. 5G also involves over 120,000 new satellites in low to mid orbit, and I'll talk more about those in a moment. 5G has been approved recently for 1 million new ground antennas in the United States. 5G is a global deployment. This is happening all over the world, and there are currently dozens of cities in the US that currently have 5G. 5G also involves base stations and devices that contain multiple antennas in phased arrays that emit steerable laser-like beams that track each other. That means that each 5G phone actually is like a miniature cell tower that you hold in your hand, put in your pocket, or hold next to your brain. I hope not. Hope you don't do that. Every 5G phone contains dozens of tiny antennas that track and aim a narrowly focused beam to search and connect to the nearest antenna, which could be in a nearby device. It could be another cell phone, it could be an appliance, or it could be an actual 5G small cell antenna. The FCC has approved 5G to operate at 20 watts, which is 10 times more powerful than 4G. We're talking about radiation that's 10 to hundreds of times greater than what we currently have. The idea behind 5G is that everything will become smart. Every appliance, every device, everything, literally everything that we interact with will be chipped and antennaed and transmitting and emitting, and it will become part of this smart house that you live in. Now, we've all heard about smart dishwashers and smart clothes dryers and smart refrigerators, but we also have on the market now smart diapers, for example. And smart diapers are meant to tell you when your baby's diaper needs to be changed so that you don't have to pick up your child and hold your child and actually check the diaper. No, you just interact with your phone. You just look at your phone because your phone will be telling you everything you need to know. There also are smart pills that are designed to track whether you actually take the medication or not and potentially report that to your doctor or your insurance company. And when you do take the smart medicine, it will be tracking what's going on inside your body as it's digested. And then we have smart condoms. Smart condoms are designed to track your thrust and semen count. And the ever popular womb pod, which is meant for a pregnant mother to insert inside her womb so that the device can play music to the developing fetus, irradiating the womb all the while. These smart products and devices are also designed to be collecting data at every step along the way. And big data is really big business. Your smart home will then be part of a smart city where all of the smart buildings have all of their smart devices and smart products operating inside them, and they'll all be communicating with the smart cars, and the smart cities will be part of smart states and smart countries, which will all be interconnected and communicating with other smart cities and smart states and provinces and districts and regions throughout the entire world, creating one big interconnected planet, collecting data at every step of the way and emitting wireless radiation every second. As General Petraeus, our former CIA chief, said, "We will spy on you through your dishwasher." And he was not joking. Big data is big money. This is the next industrial revolution. This is where all the money is going and all the money is coming from. And that's a big piece of what 5G is all about. So what does the relevant research show? Well, wireless radiation has been linked to all kinds of nasty health effects, ranging from brain tumors, Parkinson's, cardiac dysfunction, and leukemia, DNA damage, immune disruption, dementia, lowered sperm counts, various cancers, insomnia, behavior disruption, cell damage, memory loss, and changes in our brain waves. It's not a pretty picture. It's safe to say that the research base right now on wireless radiation biological effects is up to 10,000 peer-reviewed research studies. Clinical evidence of sick and injured people, experimental evidence of DNA damage, tumors, damage to cells and organ systems, and epidemiological evidence of cancer, heart disease, and diabetes. The bottom line is wireless radiation is harmful. There's no question about that. If you want to learn more about the research, I've listed 4 websites here that are kind of clearinghouse websites, go-to websites for the research on wireless radiation. environmentalhealthtrust.org, americansforresponsibletech.org, 5gspaceappeal.org, and bioinitiative.org. So check those out. There is global opposition to the 5G agenda. There are entire countries that have halted 5G. Slovenia, for example, has completely banned 5G due to health effects. Switzerland has halted 5G deployment because of health concerns. And there's reason to believe that Russia has actually stopped 5G deployment, although it's hard to know exactly what's going on inside Russia because they are a rather secretive country. There's a United Nations appeal with more than 240 scientists asking the United Nations for a moratorium on 5G until it can be proven safe. The 5G space appeal has over 250,000 signatories from 214 nations. The IEEE, which is the largest association of electricians and electrical engineers, they have recently issued a warning about wireless harm. Lloyd's of London refuses to insure against 5G health effects. That should tell us something. What do they know that we don't know? Meteorologists have banded together to oppose 5G out of concerns that it will interfere with the weather satellites because of all of the satellite deployments connected with 5G. And if weather predictions cannot be accurately made, we're talking about life or death consequences potentially. Astronomers have banded together to oppose 5G because all of the satellites are interfering with the telescopes. Wireless carriers admit that they've done no scientific studies on the safety of 5G and have no plans to do any. This was brought forward by Senator Richard Blumenthal last February when, during a hearing, he asked very pointed questions from wireless leaders and were forced to admit they had not done any studies and had no plans to do any. So the question is, if 5G is so bad, why is our government not protecting us? Well, that's a really good question. There's a tendency to think that wireless is everywhere, so it must be safe, right? We have Bluetooth, Fitbit, cordless phones, cell phones, smartwatches, Wi-Fi, everything. It's everywhere, so it must be safe. Well, we don't have to look too far back in history to see that that's probably not the case. This is a Time magazine cover from 1947 where it says, "DDT is good for me. Exhaustive tests have shown that when properly used, DDT is a benefactor of all humanity." Well, we know better now. And then in the 1950s, we had the X-ray machines in shoe stores. These were designed so that when you try on a pair of shoes, you stick your feet into the X-ray machine. The machine X-rays your feet with those shoes on, and you can see if the shoes are fitting well because you can see your feet inside the shoes. So people would try on multiple pairs of shoes in one visit and expose themselves to multiple X-rays. Kids used to play in these X-ray machines because they were everywhere in the shoe stores, completely unmonitored. Kids would stick their hands in there, people trying to stick their heads in there. And then, of course, we have the tobacco industry. When cigarettes first came out, everybody smoking cigarettes, Santa Claus smoking cigarettes, babies smoking cigarettes, and of course, doctors recommending that people should smoke cigarettes. My best friend's mother was told by her physician to smoke cigarettes during her pregnancy because it would help with the pregnancy. And then dentists got in on the act. And of course, the scientific evidence was showing that smoking is good for us. And we know better now. What happens is there's this time lag between when a new technology or product comes onto the market, and there can be enough scientific research done on it to determine whether it's harmful or not. And if it is harmful, there's another time lag that happens before government regulation can be enacted. And many corporations are well aware of this time lag, and they exploit it. They take advantage of it at every opportunity. It's called the Tobacco Playbook. And this is the playbook that Big Telecom is following. Step one is create a highly addictive product, then hide relevant research that shows it is harmful, discredit any researchers that oppose that, and you also pay off researchers so that they don't publish their research in the first place, then take over the regulating agencies so that they can't get in the way, and pour on the propaganda to the public, convincing the public that they must have this product. As I said, this is the playbook that Big Telecom is following step by step. There's a lot of money to be made in those time lags. And the most recent examples of this, of course, are opioids and vaping. But with Big Telecom, the profits are astronomical. We're talking about literally trillions upon trillions of dollars. We also have the FCC in the US. The FCC is problematic. This is the Federal Communications Commission, because the safety limits have not been updated since 1992. The FCC is tasked with regulating Big Telecom and allegedly protecting us, but they haven't updated their safety limits since 1992, and those safety limits are based on science from the 1980s. Did anybody even own a cell phone in the 1980s? Wi-Fi didn't exist. Most of this stuff didn't even exist. Do you think things have changed since the 1980s in terms of household consumption of wireless products? The US standards are among the least protective in the world. We also have the Telecom Act of 1996, which says that telecom infrastructure, like towers and antennas, cannot be regulated based on environmental effects, and over the years that has been interpreted to mean health effects. So you cannot object or regulate these towers and antennas based on environmental or health effects, or so they say. Basically, the FCC is a captured agency. That means they have been taken over by the industry that they're supposed to be regulating. And the Harvard Ethics Committee wrote an entire report on this called Captured Agency, how the FCC is dominated by the industries it presumably regulates. The bottom line is no one is looking out for us. So what about Hawaii? What's going on in the state of Hawaii? In order to understand that, we need to understand that 5G is basically a marketing term. And because it's a marketing term, it can pretty much mean whatever Big Telecom wants it to mean. And they're actually fighting with each other right now about what 5G means. You know, one company is saying, we have the best 5G, and another company is saying, no, we do. You have fake 5G. We have real 5G. And this is actually an ongoing battle between telecom companies. 5G includes 3 different frequency bands, and it also includes 4G. Basically, 5G is a frequency hog. It takes up a huge part of the allowable electromagnetic spectrum. In the high frequency band, 5G uses millimeter wave frequencies that are 20 gigahertz and above. 20 gigahertz, 30 gigahertz, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, and so it goes. These are the small cell antennas, or the 5G small cells, as they're sometimes called. And these are used in densely populated areas like football stadiums, concert arenas, and in densely populated urban areas, big cities where there's lots of people. So that's a little bit about those millimeter wave frequencies and the 5G small cells. This is a picture of what those 5G small cells look like. This picture is from Honolulu on the island of Oahu, and you can see that these are mounted usually on public infrastructure. They're mounted on light poles, telephone poles, electrical poles, things like that. This is a picture of the island of Oahu with a mapping of Sprint 5G small cells. There are over 60 of these. This map does not include the other carriers, and so it's not really current or up to date because AT&T and T-Mobile are also deploying 5G on Oahu. Then we have the mid-frequency band, which 4G utilizes. These are microwave frequencies between 1 and 6 gigahertz. And these are the towers and the big antennas. And these are found in cities, in suburban areas, and rural areas because the signals travel further at 1 to 6 gigahertz. And then there's the lower frequency band, which 4G also utilizes, which is the ultra-high frequency between 300 megahertz and 1 gigahertz. And again, these are the towers and the big antennas, and you find these everywhere in urban areas, suburban areas, and rural areas. So these are utilized by 4G and 5G. So this is a picture of the old sugar mill smokestack at Pu'unene on the island of Maui. And those are 4G flat panels up there. This is somebody's backyard up in Haiku on the island of Maui, more 4G. And this is a picture of a 4G antenna that went up during the coronavirus lockdown. And if you look closely up at the top there, you see that little tuft-like looking thing. Well, that's because this tower was then camouflaged to look like a fake Norfolk pine tree. This is a picture, unfortunately, of a school on Oahu. And the sad thing is, the kids that attend the school all day, every day that they're in school, they're being irradiated by those massive antennas there. So this is a map of the islands of Hawaii, and it's called the UCLA speed test. And I'm putting this map up here because this map is flying around a lot on social media, and people are looking at it and saying, oh my God, we have 5G everywhere. We have 5G everywhere. Well, here's the thing. One, we know that this map is not accurate because if you click down on it, it only shows T-Mobile antennas. And we know, for example, that on Oahu, it's not just T-Mobile. There's also Sprint there. There's AT&T small cells there. And this map is designed to show not just what's available, but also what's coming, what's online. So it's not accurate. The other thing is that it only shows T-Mobile infrastructure, and so we thought maybe UCLA was, owned by T-Mobile or something, and it doesn't seem to be the case that we could discover. But T-Mobile is not using millimeter waves for their 5G. They're not using those 5G small cells. They're actually using a lower part of the spectrum, the 600 megahertz. So they're not 5G small cells. They're using the bigger antennas and towers that are emitting at the lower end of the spectrum. And in the tech media, they're saying that T-Mobile isn't really doing authentic 5G. They say that T-Mobile does 4.9G, not 5G. So again, this is just another example of the infighting that's going on among these companies, because 5G is a marketing term and it can mean whatever they want it to mean. The bottom line is that newer towers are beefed up 4G that is convertible to 5G with a software update. So a lot of the newer towers are 4G and 5G potentiated, let's just say. The other thing that's happening is with these beefed up 4G towers and antennas, the signals are more modulated, and so people are feeling it. So because they can feel it, they think, oh my God, it's 5G everywhere. Well, it might not be. It might be, but it might not be. But because the beefed up 4G is more modulated, it's easier for people to feel it. So 4G, 5G, 3G, 6G doesn't really matter. The bottom line is wireless radiation is harmful. It doesn't matter if it's 3G, 4G, 5G, whatever. It's harmful. This is a picture of the island of Oahu with a Elon Musk Starlink 5G dedicated satellite orbiting over the island. This is from a website that tracks the 5G satellites. So we do have 5G satellites orbiting over the Hawaiian Islands. Let's talk about those satellites. What's going on with the satellites? Well, Elon Musk's SpaceX company currently has 420 5G satellites orbiting planet Earth. And that's current as of just a couple days ago, where they did another launch. So today is April 25th, 2020, and it was just a couple days ago that they did a launch to bring their total number up to 420 satellites, 5G satellites, orbiting planet Earth. Last fall, they said that when they had at least 400 satellites orbiting, that they would activate them. So they have over 400 now, as of just a couple of days ago. We don't know if they have been activated yet or not. If they haven't been, it could literally happen at any moment. OneWeb is another company that's doing 5G satellite deployments. They currently have 74 5G satellites orbiting planet Earth, but they declared bankruptcy just a few days ago. And so we don't know what's happening with those 74 satellites. Are they going to become space junk, or is somebody else going to buy them and take them over? We don't know. What we do know is that there are plans for about 120,000 new satellites, 50,000 of which Elon Musk has planned. And he's not the only, SpaceX is not the only company that's doing this. What we're talking about is every inch of planet Earth being bathed in wireless radiation 24/7, 365, with nowhere to hide, no sanctuary, no place to escape. Here in Hawaii, we also have the HAPS drones to worry about. This is a project that was proposed first back in June of last year, and it was proposed by Google, Alphabet, and SoftBank, which is a Japanese high-tech company, and AeroVironment, which is a military contracting company. These are football field-sized drones designed to fly in the stratosphere, which is above commercial airliners, and to beam down wireless radiation for telecommunications purposes. This project was proposed to the Lanai Planning Commission last year, and we at keepyourpower.org opposed this project and voiced our opposition. Also, a Hawaiian cultural practitioner filed a lawsuit to try to stop this project, and in the end was successful. However, now the project is being proposed in a different way. So they're just going about it in a different way since that wasn't successful, their first attempt. And we at keepyourpower.org are tracking this issue, and we are poised and ready for when a hearing is scheduled, poised and ready to let people know to voice their opinion about this project. The goal is to turn the island of Lanai, which is in Maui County, into a drone manufacturing plant and launch pad to launch these giant football field-sized drones throughout the equatorial belt. This is a picture of a drone hangar that was built on agricultural land on Lanai without approval, without permits, as part of this proposed project. Build first, ask questions later, right? So it's hard to see how these people are acting in good faith when they do things like that. We also have the Google Loon, which is a tennis court-sized helium balloon that also flies in the stratosphere and beams down toxic wireless radiation. This is a picture of the flight path from the Google Loon last year. And this image was taken right around the same time that the drone proposal was on the table. And if you look at the flight path, you can see that the loon was orbiting around primarily Maui County. And on this map, you're allowed to zoom in. And if you zoom into the island of Lanai, you're able to see that the loon orbited right over that drone hangar and illegal airstrip. Interesting. So what can we do to stop all of this? Well, for starters, there's Brian Schatz, our Hawaii federal representative. Brian Schatz loves 5G and does everything he possibly can to force 5G onto everyone in the country. He repeatedly sponsors and co-sponsors legislation for the rapid deployment of 5G across the nation. Legislation to take away local authority, to limit the amount of time that we have to act, to restrict the ways that we can act. Brian Schatz is a huge fan of the Internet of Things, and he wants this to happen as quickly and easily as possible. He wants to identify what gets in the way of it and to encourage and improve what promotes the Internet of Things. So if you are in Hawaii, I strongly recommend that you reach out to Senator Brian Schatz, our Hawaii senator, and voice your opinion to him. I have had conversations with him in person. I have spoken with his staff. I have sent him multiple pieces of research. He refuses to listen. So I invite you to join your voice and express yourself to him. On the state level, we have an unfortunate piece of legislation called the 5G Rapid Deployment, and that was signed into law by Governor Ige back in June of 2018. This legislation was crafted by ALEC, which is the American Legislative Exchange Council, which is a right-wing conservative pro-corporation organization that crafts legislation that is pro-corporation and then shops it around to various states. And here in Hawaii, our state legislators said, oh yes, please, we want that. And so they voted it right in, the 5G rapid deployment legislation. Here in South Maui, our Representative Tina Wildberger is our friend. For 2 years in a row now, she has sponsored a resolution for a review of health studies on 5G. And I have been working with Tina and her staff on this. All we're asking is to identify research that has been done on 5G or millimeter waves and review it and report back in 180 days. That's all we're asking. It's a very simple ask. Yet, aside from that being a very simple ask, a thing that doesn't cost any money and is pretty simple to do, this was blocked last year by Representative Ichiyama, who is in House District 32 on the island of Oahu. She blocked the resolution for a review of health studies on 5G, despite the fact that she vice chairs the Consumer Protection and Commerce Committee. So if you are so inclined, please reach out to Representative Ichiyama at 808-586-6220 and please voice your opinion, asking her to stop blocking this resolution for a simple review of health studies on 5G. And this year, the resolution has also been assigned to the Health and Human Services Committee. Representative Mizuno is the chair of that committee, and he is considering blocking this as well. So he's another Oahu representative, House District 28. So if you are so inclined, please give him a call, 808-586-6050, and let him know that you want him to not block this resolution for a review of health studies on 5G. Do the review of the health studies. It's a simple thing, and it does, in fact, impact our health. What about the county level? Well, it turns out that counties actually have a lot of power over 5G. For one, they can oppose the 5G infrastructure on the basis of aesthetics. Because let's face it, some of these towers and antennas are really, really ugly. And that's a huge factor to consider, especially in the state of Hawaii, where our economy is so dependent on tourism. And tourists don't come here to look at ugly towers and antennas. They don't come here to have robotics and driverless cars and interface with technology. They actually come here to unplug, to get away from all of that, and to see the beauty of nature here. So aesthetic opposition is a tactic that has been used to oppose 5G successfully. We also have the NEPA ruling, and this requires an environmental review of all 5G small cell permits. So this is another thing that we have on our side to stop 5G at the county level. There's two more options that have been used in other jurisdictions successfully, and we hope to enact them here on Maui and on the other islands. One of these is a nuisance ordinance. Right now, there are nuisance ordinances already on the books that prevent your neighbors from doing things that can harm you. For example, your neighbor cannot crank their stereo at high decibels that end up disturbing you. That's a nuisance, and they can't do that. They also can't, for example, fire up their barbecue grill every night and have toxic smoke coming into your dwelling. That's a nuisance. Well, if your neighbors can't make certain sounds or barbecue on their grill, how on earth are they able to erect wireless radiation antennas and towers on their property? That is allowed at this time, and it shouldn't be, because it is harmful. It falls under the nuisance ordinance. So it's time to contact county council members to ask them to enact a nuisance ordinance against wireless radiation. Also, wireless radiation is a form of air pollution. It's considered electrosmog. It contaminates the air. And that's another option in terms of opposition, and it has been used successfully in other jurisdictions. So again, the county has a lot of power when it comes to stopping 5G. This is a short list of lawsuits against the FCC for constitutional overreach in the rollout of 5G. And as you look through this list, you can see that it consists of smaller municipalities, cities, mayors, counties, towns, townships, and so forth. So there's a lot of opposition to 5G that's happening at the local levels. Bottom line is contact your mayor and your council members and voice your concerns about 5G. And just so you know, we at keepyourpower.org are not anti-technology. And in fact, I myself love technology. I love technology and I use it all the time, but I use it safely. So there are ways to use technology safely, and there is a safe alternative to 5G, and it's called SafeG. You can check it out at safeg.net. And SafeG is all about fiber optics. Fiber is our friend. It turns out that fiber optics have a lot of benefits. One is that fiber optics are already here. They're already part of the 4G, 5G infrastructure. So all we're asking is for those fiber optic cables to be extended into the premises. So run the fiber optics that are underground, run them to the home, to the office, to the business. And in doing that, we can eliminate these towers and antennas and this toxic wireless radiation. And it turns out that fiber optics provide faster internet, faster even than 5G. And it turns out that it's a higher quality, it's more reliable, it's more resilient, it's not as easily hackable. Wireless technologies are very insecure, they're easily hackable. It offers more privacy, it's healthier, it's more ecological, it doesn't harm the environment like wireless radiation does. Wireless radiation harms all life forms, not just humans, all life forms, plants, animals, insects, the pollinators, trees. And it also turns out that fiber optics are less expensive in the long run. Please check out our website, keepyourpower.org. We do have a couple of petitions up there right now. One is for a moratorium on 5G until it can be proven safe. We also have another petition about the giant drones. When you sign the petitions, you can choose to be on our newsletter list, which I hope you will, because it's a good way for us to stay informed and organized so that when legislation comes up, we can take action together. If you're on Facebook, we do have a Facebook group called 5G Free Hawaii. So check that out. And right now, we have a GoFundMe campaign running. We're raising money to buy special meters that are certified to be accurate and will allow us to test the cell towers and antennas. And the reason we need to do this is because right now, big telecom is self-regulating and no one is policing them. That means that those towers and antennas could be emitting way over the safety limits, and we would never know. We have no idea. So we need to buy these meters, and we're looking for one for each island. We're raising money to buy one of these meters for each island so that we can go out and test these antennas and towers to find out at what level they're emitting and to make sure that they're not emitting over the safety limits. So check out the GoFundMe campaign called We Need Special Meters to Test Cell Towers. Thank you so much for your kind attention. I really appreciate your care. Aloha.